Good morning. Good morning, Bones. High five. Time to wake up. It's time to learn about energy flow. Okay, so we've been taking a look at the environment and the study of ecology, how all organisms interact within an ecosystem. Okay, we've learned about how there are different factors in our ecosystems called limiting factors, both biotic and abiotic, that limit the population growth of organisms. Okay, what we're going to start taking a look at today is how does all of this energy and how does all of this limitation move around, okay, in the ecosystem? How does the energy flow from one organism to another? How does all of the energy start in one place and end up somewhere else? Okay, and in order to do that, we have to understand what kind of organisms are involved in each step of the process. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about how energy flows from one organism to another through food chains and food webs and the organisms that eat each other. Okay, let's say. So where does all of our energy come from for the earth? Bones, do you remember? Where does all the energy come from? That's right, it's the sun. The sun is written right there. You guys can see it. It says right up there, the sun. I don't mean to pick your nose, Bones. Up there, it says the sun. All energy comes from the sun. And the sun comes shining down and it shines down on all the plants and algae around the world. And all the plants and algae go, photosynthesis. I'm going to make sugar. I'm going to make oxygen. I'm going to absorb carbon dioxide. And that's going to help other organisms. So the energy gets passed from the sun to our plants and our algae. Then organisms have to eat the plants and the algae. So the energy from the sun that's in the plants and the algae gets passed to herbivores, plant eaters. We'll get more into that in a second. So deer and herbivores are eating the plants and the algae all around, and then they get eaten. They get eaten by something called carnivores, meat eaters. Carnivores are meat eaters. Okay. Then all of a sudden, carnivores die. Eventually, organisms have to die. And decomposers, bacteria and stuff, decompose our bodies back into the ground. Okay. And we become fertilizer for the grass and the plants for them to be able to grow. So it's kind of like a circle. It's a big circle. It's a big cycle, just like they said in The Lion King, the circle of life. So what type of organisms have the most energy? Most energy happens at the beginning of our food chains. And as energy gets passed from one organism to another, you get less and less energy is able to be passed on because we use it. We use some of it, so we can't pass as much energy as we can to the next person. It's kind of like if you were sharing a Gatorade with some people, okay? You take a sip of Gatorade, you pass the Gatorade to the next person, there's not as much Gatorade as you had available to you, all right? So energy gets used up, all right? But some of that energy gets passed on, and that's what the point of today is going to be about. We're going to talk about the different types of organisms that make up a food chain before we get into food chains and food webs. So here we go. You ready, Bones? I'm excited. Let's go. All right. First part of the food chain or first part of energy flow in the environment comes down to autotrophs and producers. Okay? Producers do exactly what they say. They produce, okay, sugar. They produce energy for organisms to use. Okay? Autotrophs. The word autotroph, you see the word auto in there. Autotrophs automatically make their own food. That's the way to remember it. So autotroph automatically makes their own food. Producer produces their own food. You can use these words interchangeably. These are all your green plants. These are all your algae, the green scum that you find in fish tanks and lakes, as you can see here. So autotrophs or producers are the first thing that, those are the organisms that allow the energy from the sun to become usable for us. Okay, and that's really important. We would not be here without our autotrophs and without our producers taking the energy from the sun and turning it into sugar for us. All right, very important part of the energy flow. It's the first stage here on Earth where we get transition that energy from the sun into something usable. Okay, and it's sugar. Yummy. I like sugar. Now, consumers cannot make their own food. Okay, consumers consume food. You are a consumer. Bones used to be a consumer. Okay, so consumers cannot make their own food. We have to consume our food and get our energy from other places because that's what food is. Food is energy when we eat. When you get tired, when you get cranky, when you get hangry, okay, what do you need? You need an energy boost so you have something to eat. So since we don't have the ability to make our own food, we have to consume it from somewhere else. We are considered heterotrophs, Okay, so we've got some different heterotrophs here on the board. We've got a couple giraffes over here, very cute. Some zooplankton, Pumbaa, okay, a duck-billed platypus, and Timon. Okay, again, ecology, energy flow, food chains, food webs. Go watch Lion King. Lion King explains this stuff great. It's a great movie, whether you watch the cartoon one, the new animated one. Both are great on Disney Plus. Check them out. Lion King explains the circle of life. But the thing you need to know here is that consumers must consume their own food, and we are called heterotrophs. All right. So we've got lots of different organisms are heterotrophs, including us. We have to consume food from another source. Now, a primary consumer, the word primary means first. A primary consumer is known as a herbivore. And herbivores are a special kind of organism that only eat plants. Okay? They only eat plants. You see this gorilla over here? All right. Panda bears, caterpillar, whatever kind of bug that is. Can't even tell you. And one of my favorite animals, and one of Bones' favorite animals, is the okapi. It's like part deer, part zebra. It's crazy looking. It's awesome. But the point is that these guys here are primary consumers. They will only eat plants. They want nothing to do with meat. They have special teeth that help them grind the plant in order to digest it. So a herbivore is an organism that eats only plants, also known as a primary consumer. It is the first thing to eat. So the sun shines down on the plants grow, they produce sugar, and herbivores eat the plants. All right? Very good. That brings us to our carnivores, or our secondary consumers. Okay, we see a shark here, alligator, lions, polar bear. These are animals mountain lion. These are animals that only eat meat. Okay, that's all they eat. They're hunters. They're going to eat meat, so they're going to actually eat herbivores. Okay, the secondary consumers will actually eat primary consumers. So this is what's known as a carnivore, carnivore, carnivorous. All right, all of these words are used to explain an organism that only eats meat. Okay, they are the secondary consumer. They're a little bit higher up on the food chain than the herbivores and the plants that we just previously talked about. Now, they get less energy from eating the herbivores than the herbivores get from eating the plants. Because each time an organism eats another one, less energy is being passed on, just simply because the organism are using that energy in order to carry out basic life functions. So we've got herbivores, which are plant eaters, and carnivores, which are meat eaters. But there's also organisms that eat both. They're called omnivores. That's us. We are omnivores. We eat both plants and animals, okay? There's lots of organisms out there that are omnivores. See the teacup pig, the skunk, us, okay, human beings. We are considered omnivores. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. So we are considered consumers. We're not producers, we are consumers, but we have the ability, the digestive systems, to eat both, which gives us an advantage, okay? An evolutionary advantage, because if a resource runs out, we can switch over to eating another different types of resource. So we've got producers, which are plants, herbivores, which are primary consumers, plant eaters, okay, only eat plants, carnivores, which eat meat, all right, and then us, omnivores, we get the best of both worlds. We get to eat both plants and animals, okay? And in our next video, we're going to see how this all fits together. But before we had to do that, you had to understand what kind of organisms were out there and what types of stuff, what types of resources help keep them alive. See you next time.